Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their successes, their challenges, their backgrounds, and what's really driving them forward. So this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Clive Wall, who's the Managing Director at Fineline VAR. So Clive, thanks so much for spending time with us. If you could introduce yourself and Fineline to the audience and let us know what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, thank you, Chris, for the invite. It's, thank you for that. So, I'm Clive Wall, Managing Director of Fineline VAR. We're the UK subsidiary of Fineline Global. Our core business is value-add printed circuit board supply, PCB supply. We have a network of manufacturers, primarily in Asia, and our role is to manage your customers' orders, give them the technical support, the commercial support, logistics and warehousing. We're supplying customers in the UK, but also worldwide. And yeah, that's our business.
And it's really interesting. Obviously, we met some time ago, Clive, and you know, printed circuit boards, PCBs, are in everything, aren't they? I mean, there's probably 100 things right around me right now that have printed circuit boards in.
Yeah, absolutely. We're supplying lighting, automotive, aerospace, controls, telecoms, every industry. It's everything has circuit boards.
Brilliant, absolutely. So it's obviously an amazing demand. I know you've grown so successfully. So I'll obviously get into that a little bit more. But maybe just to start with, you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one.
Okay, so being honest, I stumbled into circuit boards. I was at college. I was planning to go to university. Unfortunately, my father passed away, and it changed the circumstances. Not wanting to leave my mother at home on her own and my younger brothers, so I took a job in circuit boards, and that was back in 1986. 36 years later, I'm still in circuit boards.
Wow!
So I started with a local company, DJ Circuits in Harrogate. Unfortunately, they closed recently, but I had 13 years with them, building my way up from being a trainee engineer, moving into various different roles, became their sales manager, and after 13 years with them, moved on to a bigger company as their sales director. From there, I moved on after 7 or 8 years. I moved on to another company, a bigger company again, and had 7 or 8 years as a sales director for a circuit board group before joining Fineline 2016 and joined as MD and took it from there. Brilliant.
And I know you've had some amazing growth, but so as growing up, is I guess this isn't what you were planning to. What were the things you were really thinking about when you were growing up? What you were planning to do?
Well, to be honest, I was going to go to university to do civil engineering.
Right.
Okay. So as I say, that changed, and
yes,
I started in a circuit board. So I had no, being honest, no real ambition. I never really knew what I wanted to do long term.
Yeah.
And yeah, I soon realised though that in the circuit boards I could build a career in it, and yeah, I haven't looked back.
So absolutely, and I know you've grown quite significantly over time, and I don't know how much of that you can share, but as you've grown, what are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome? Okay,
so from when I joined Fineline, late 2016, 2017 was my first full year as MD.
Yeah.
We were turning over just under 7 million, and today, just over 4 years later, we're now up at 21 million. So we've grown threefold in the space of 4.5 years.
That's
so I think managing the growth has been challenging. I think a lot of the challenges was around the people and the values and the culture of the business.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, where people weren't able to change, we had to change the people. So for me, having the right values, the right culture and attitude is as important as having the ability. So we built a team in Harrogate. We started off with 5 of us in late 2016. We now have around 34 in the company. And and it's very much focused on the customer, adding value, where we can give them the solutions and the support. Also during this period of growth, we had two acquisitions. One was a small one where we acquired a company turnover around 2 million. That had its own complexities of integrating them into the company.
Yeah.
Their systems were not so good. The people were good, but the systems were not so good. A year later, 2019, we acquired another company. That was a turnover around 4 million. And again, that brought different challenges again. So it was, so the growth, we've had organic growth and we've had acquisitional growth. And I think the acquisitions really stretched us and it certainly taught me a lot during that time.
I can absolutely imagine that. Incredible. 3 times growth in 6 years?
4.5 years.
So, and it's interesting, Clive, isn't it? Because I mean, obviously, it's obvious to say a lack of growth or negative growth is a problem. You know, if we're not growing, we're not making money, etc. But growth comes with its own challenges, doesn't it? As you say, you know, people, culture, and you know, the biggest one I've found with many people is time. Is it really can take, you know, obviously can really be a drain on our time having to grow more and do the new things. You said you learned a lot. What would you say some of the biggest learnings you've had in business in general, but certainly as you've grown so rapidly?
Okay, I think recruitment's one of the big issues.
Yeah.
That I've learned. I've learned how the cost of recruitment, the cost of finding the right people to come into the company, the cost of bringing the wrong people into the company.
Yes.
So we've really changed our focus on how we recruit. And as I was saying before, it's as much about attitude and culture as it is ability. We can train people in what we do. We can't always train their attitude.
100%. It's really, I mean, we're so aligned with that. And we, you know, in what we do when we're helping businesses, one of the propositions we've got is, you know, in general, traditional recruitment is recruiting on experience, but then we sack on attitude. And so given a base level of experience, it's sensible to recruit on attitude. I mean, obviously you might need a qualification, but above that, everything else, it's all about the, you know, the match of values, the match of vision, and the behavior and attitude of the individual, and to get that right, as you say, and it's you build great teams. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. And then obviously there's been the other challenges. Everybody knows about 2020 and COVID, so we will we won't cross that bridge.
Yes.
2021, that was a really challenging time in the electronics world. Okay, for circuit boards that we supply, there was material availability.
Right.
There was long lead times. There was issues with freight, and where customers were used to receiving orders in 4 to 5 weeks, we were now going out to 15, 16 weeks.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Prices were increasing rapidly, and managing that whole situation was extremely draining on the resources. One of the interesting things is we were probably the first company to go to the market and say, this is happening, you know, material lead times are extended, pricing's been impacted, freight's a problem. And in the first month of telling customers this, they were coming back and telling us that, your competitors are not, nobody else is telling us this. A few months later, they soon realized the advantage that we could bring is we know what's going on in the market.
Yep.
So whilst we're a UK company and we're doing successful as a UK company, we're part of a global organization. And I think having that global organization behind us and the knowledge worldwide, what's going on, really helps us. So it's, so it was great that we could be like the first to market, even though it was taken negatively initially. I think it soon became apparent to the customers that, you know, we knew what we were talking about. So I think, that was a big challenge of pricing and lead times. Another challenge that we considered a challenge initially was the lack of travel to Asia. So our supply base is in China, primarily in China, also in Taiwan and other regions. And with COVID, the restrictions, none of the management had been over to see the suppliers for a number of years, not since 2019. We're fortunate that we've got a supply chain team in China. We've got, you know, the full backup in China. But so initially we saw that as a negative that we can't travel. Now it's a real positive because customers are now realizing the benefit that we can bring by having the supply chain working for us in China.
Yep.
So it's yeah, that was a real help for us. But yeah, so I think over the course of this sort of last couple of years, where our company name is Fineline VAR, and VAR originally stood for value added reseller.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've been using the term versatile, agile, and resilient.
Love it.
And I think that's really sort of shown through this last sort of 2 years that we've got the team that can adapt to the different circumstances. So brilliant.
I really get that. So I think you know we're a business coaching organisation, Clive, and I'm interested to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Okay,
I think to be honest, I think one of the real guys that was a mentor to me was my first boss, Joe Lupton. Okay, he really gave me the foundations for where I am today. He was he had the right values. He taught you all about integrity in business, about managing cost. He was absolutely focused on that. So from my early 20s, it was all about making sure you're managing the cost.
Yep.
So in my early days, he was a really important guy for me. As I moved on to my next job, there was a guy there by the name of Brian Davis, and the biggest thing he taught me that was about every challenge, don't look at the challenge, look at the opportunity.
Great.
And I think that was a really good lesson. So face the challenges, but look what we can get out of those challenges. And I think again, that's really sort of resonated with me over this last couple of years, you know, especially when we were hit with the lead times and the pricing that actually created opportunity for us. We could take some market share from competitors because we handled it in a different way. So
brilliant.
So that was good. I got a couple of good friends. They're good sounding boards. They tell me when they tell me when I'm wrong. So which I need sometimes. So that was really good. Obviously, Chris, we've spent a lot of time talking and working together. We had a recent conversation where we were talking about another acquisition.
Yep.
And there was something you said to me about, it wasn't just about acquiring their business, it was about acquiring certain customers in a different niche. And it was, so things like that really, really helped. And again, we had the sales training with yourself that was, really beneficial. You came in, spoke with the sales team. You know, I was a bit, I needed some new motivation for them. And that was really supporting. It was, they were having a hard time after COVID, not being able to go out and see customers. They were facing difficulties of how to attract new customers when people were working at home, not answering phones. And I think that time we had was really motivational for them. So, so along the way, and my current CEO, he's a great guy. My CEO, he's based in Israel. Our head office is in Israel. And he's a real leader when it comes to times of adversity. He's a real leader. So
really
doesn't micromanage the day-to-day stuff. He leaves me to run it. But when there's when there's issues at a really higher level, is a true leader on that. So I've had a lot of different mentors and guidance on the way, and they all helped me at different times.
Brilliant. It's great, and thank you for your kind words. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. And it's interesting about Freya. There's a lovely quote from that I use a little bit about Robbie Williams, unfortunately late Robbie Williams, and he said a friend. I use it as describing what we do as being an unreasonable friend in business. But he says a friend is somebody that listens to your bullshit, tells you it's bullshit, and then listens to some more bullshit. And I just think that's a lovely way of saying sometimes that's it. We just need a compassionate friend, but also someone that does actually tell us that, tell us how it is rather than how we'd like it to be. So I think that's better. Yeah. And whether it's from your mentors or from other people, are there any quotes or sayings that you picked up that you use a lot in general?
There probably are. There are that I sort of say to people about things like it's better to regret what you've done than regret what you haven't.
Yeah.
I have a few quotes on my on the back of my desk at work. Just thinking of the reasons to do something, not the reasons not to do it.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And I think I think it's very easy to find all the reasons not to do something.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to look at the reasons to do it.
Absolutely. I think at the very least have that balance, almost like a balance sheet, the pros, the cons, the strengths and weaknesses. And
absolutely. So I also been a little bit sentimental. I have the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling.
Yes. Okay.
And that's quite, there's a few things in there that are quite relevant to personal life and also business, and very much about keeping, doing things right, treating everybody, regardless of their levels, treat everybody the same and consistent. And so there's a few things in there that are quite telling, really.
Brilliant. I'll re-look up that. I'm familiar with one or two of the parts of it, but I'm going to pick that out and have another read. And Clive, what would you say you've learned about yourself through your career?
That I'm not always right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's something I've learned about my career. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, of course I was always right, but now I realise I wasn't. So I've learned to take a lot of different people's views and work with people. I've also realised the importance of bringing in people that are better than you. Yes. When we started in Harrogate, I almost cherry-picked guys that I'd worked with in the past that I knew had real good skill sets.
Right.
That were far better than me at what they do.
Yep.
And I think that's really important. Surround yourself with people that have got the right skill set, and let them flourish. Let them do what they do.
It's a really fabulous learning, isn't it? And it's very logical, but it's difficult emotionally because the belief that we need to be the best, and when we can overcome that and just say no, we just need to be the best at leading people better than us, and that's
definitely. So I have definitely learned the importance or the need to let people do things and not not micromanage, not try and control, because they're better than me at what they do. So don't interfere. Let them do their job and I'll do mine. So I think I've changed a huge amount on that over the last 5 or 6 years.
Makes perfect sense.
Which has enabled the company to grow. So it's good.
Well, proof's in the pudding, in all honesty, isn't it? I mean, you've guided that level of growth in the way you have. That's just a great example of why that is such a good way to move forward. And looking towards the future, what does the future look like for you guys? You've obviously had a lot of growth, but I'm interested in what the future looks like and what challenges you might face, if any.
Okay, so I think the future for us is looking really positive.
Great.
Okay, obviously the current economy globally is a concern.
Yep.
But I recently went to a sales meeting with our guys. We're talking about all the opportunities, and we're not just talking opportunities we could potentially have. We're talking people that are a long way down the sales pipeline, and it's looking extremely, extremely promising.
Brilliant.
We're also looking after a lot of global accounts, So I think we have an advantage in the UK that English is the business language of the world.
Yep.
And we're finding we've actually grown a number of major global accounts, and that's going to create more and more opportunity. So we're supplying into Europe, into the US, into South America, into Asia for some global accounts, and that will only grow. That will only grow. Additionally, in our industry, there's many business owners of the smaller companies turning over 2, 3, 4 million that are coming to the end of their careers, or the end of their, they've got exit strategies.
Yes.
And so there's a potential for more acquisitions in the future. But I think, so we've got the potential for acquisitions. And then I think the biggest element will be the global accounts that we work on. So I think that's, we're part of a global company, and the UK is positioned well to manage these global accounts. So the future, I'm really positive. I've just brought a new sales director in from one of our competitors. He's a young guy, Sam Thompson, but very, very motivated, and he's a great guy. And I think, he's really going to support us growing. So I think the future is good. I'm positive about it.
Sounds brilliant, and we absolutely wish the best of luck. And it'd be great to swing by again in a year or so and just see, because you're going at such an amazing rate. So just a few things before we sort of wrap up. What would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Clive?
So anybody going into business right now?
Yeah, if they were thinking of doing so, what would be your key tips?
Okay, again, make sure you have the right people with you.
Great.
Okay, right people working with you. I think, of course, the economy is a big concern. Keep a close eye on cost and cash flow. I think cost and cash flow is going to be pretty telling over this next year. The threat of interest rates, and we don't know what's going to happen. So I think, make sure the cash flow is managed. Make sure you've got the right people with you, and make sure you've got the right mentors to support you, and bounce ideas off, because sometimes it's not always everybody in your own business. Okay, sometimes you need somebody that can take an outside view looking in and support you. So that's helped me a lot.
Fantastic.
And focus on the customer.
Focus on the customer, 100%, and bang on. Very, very sound words of advice. And just looking back over your career, is there anything significant that you would have done differently if you could have done?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because looking where I've got today,
yes,
I'm happy. Okay. Of course, there's mistakes I made along the way. Okay. Again, when I was maybe in my late 20s, early 30s, and you think you know a little bit more than you really do. So maybe I would have listened to people a little bit more in my younger days. Yeah. I've learned to do that now in my older days. But to be honest, I'm happy with my career. It's been a good career. It's been built up in the right way. I've gone through many different processes. I've worked with some great guys, and also some guys that I also learned how not to do things.
Brilliant.
So I think, I wouldn't change my career, to be honest.
Super. It just makes sense. As you rightly say, we make mistakes, but basically we're right here, right now, because of everything we've done. Therefore, if we're happy where we are, why would you change? There's that whole sort of sliding door effect. Just one change might create totally different outcomes. So it makes sense. And finally, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so, Clive, if anything?
What advice I give to an 18-year-old is come and join Fineline. No, what advice to an 18-year-old? I think
18-year-old Clive. Sorry, I didn't quite.
An 18-year-old Clive. Just learn as much as what you can of each person you work with. Look for all the strengths in each individual, and try and just learn from as many people as you can. So I think that's not be quite so bullish when you're young and take the advice of others, but also grab the opportunity as well when it comes, because I don't move jobs so often. You know, 13 years in the first, 7 or 8 in my next 2 jobs, and then where I am today. But I took the right opportunity at the right time.
Yeah.
And so, keep some stability, keep a sensible head, but also be prepared to take an opportunity and a risk.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Clive. Very, very sound advice for anybody, that. And thank you so much. You've been really enlightening, fascinating, and some real wisdom in everything you've talked about. And as I say, you know, the proof of the is in the pudding, is in the eating, and you know the growth you're delivering year on year is just incredible. So thank you so much for your time, and maybe we can swing back again in a year or so and see where you are there.
Absolutely. But as always, Chris, it's been good to talk to you, and
thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, really welcome. Thank you so much. And just one last thing I've just remembered: if anybody wanted to get in touch with you or Fineline, what's the best way of doing so? Okay,
drop me an email. Okay, clive.wall@fineline-global.com.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, again, thanks again, Clive, and we'll see you again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris.